Well, hello everybody. How you doing? It's just jamming out to. I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen the Allman Brothers, a band back in the day with Dwayne and Dickie and all the group. And anyway, was watching them an old film that they had down in Georgia. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. How are y'all doing? It is Hump Day all over the world. I think it's Thursday in the down under on the other side of the date line. Shows you that time is merely perspective of the relevant observer. So, welcome. Hope you're having a good time. I am. I try to have a good time all the time, even when there doesn't seem to be like a good time. But hey, yeah, it's just how we flow. Music is the magic of the soul. Yeah. Since we're talking about this, you know, the title of today is Have You Become a basically a techno spiritual zombie? Here's a little insight. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. But anyway, speaking favor over us all because we are indeed favored. If you're here, you're favored. I mean, the fact that you've gone through what you've gone through and you're still here, favor works. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Sitting here with two broken ribs. And it's like, wow, didn't even. I well, I guess about 10 days ago there was snow here. It was cold. And taking Bentley out, and there is this ramp, and was sure that there was no ice on it, but boy, I was sure wrong. Bentley went out, he was the first, and as he went out, I had both my feet come up from underneath me, and for a couple of days, I knew I had enough padding on, because it was damn cold. But still, boy, hit right on the edge of this ramp. And yeah, did something a couple of days ago that has aggravated the crap out of it. And so, sure enough, so, but I'm feeling good. Yeah, it's like, okay, next. So, anyway, so how is everybody in the chat room? Good to see everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for each day when I'm on here that you tune in and the chat room takes on a spirit of itself, and I love it. And it's an opportunity to see some of what I just personally think are some of the most beautiful minds anywhere. So, yeah. Thank you for the feelings on. Hello, Elderberry. How you doing? Nina and El Gapo, good to see you. Deborah and Fireflies. Jackie, what's up, girl? Jack Fields, what's up? Miss Deborah has everything at home. Hope it's going good. Jet, good to see you. Shirley, what's up? Yeah. The thing about it is it's weird, The human body is just fascinating. And so as I was waiting to be seen yesterday, I'm an observer. I watch people, and it was so timely talking about this because we live amongst the zombies. And here's the weird thing. You and I do it too. And it's when I used to travel a lot, and by that I mean when you're logging over 100,000 miles, actual miles, airline, not with, the perks and everything come behind that, you spend a lot of freaking time at the airports. And airports are very interesting. Um, you travel enough of them and you begin to look at airports. Airports are these tentacles of an entity that feeds on the height of emotion of human beings. Travel is, you know, both a pain in the ass and it can be fun and exciting to a degree. But I remember so often because I'm one of these guys, whether you're sitting in one of the uh, airlines club, or if you're just waiting at the gate. I saw the effect over a decade ago, and in presentations I made over the last decade and a half, that I could see this thing taking over. And I called it the zombie phone effect, as the smartphone got smarter, and all it really was to entertain us. Are you entertained? Um, that people became lost in them. I saw more than a couple of times people boom, run into each other. I saw two one time in DIA at Denver, in Terminal 2, uh, that was United. Um, I mean, I'm sitting there having a cocktail, and I saw you could see it coming. And you couldn't get up fast enough, right? Because it inertia was already taken over. And so I'm sitting back there, and there was this guy next to me, and I think it was two gals that were behind it. They saw the same thing. So here's the four of us. We're all watching this, and it was almost like it was in slow motion, but it was in real time. They come along, and bam, and I mean, they knocked each other both on their ass. I mean, both of them ended on their ass. It was a gal and a dude, and of course then everyone went there to help them, and it was funny. I mean, we all started laughing. And I know that seems, well, how can you do it? But you know what? You ain't so righteous. You laugh your ass off when you saw your siblings or someone you know who by an accident hurt themselves, but it was so damn funny that the way that they did it, you laugh. It's just what we do. But anyway, getting back to what I was observing was this takeover. Now, I've been around long enough and done enough conventions that, I've saved all my lanyards, and I literally have over 160 lanyards from every different convention, investor conference where I presented and spoke at, to exhibiting. And, you know, back in the day, back in, you know, the late 80s and 90s, um, there was more productivity on the floor because people were there selling. And even in a smaller gathering. And the thing that we did not have, we didn't have cell phones. They were there. I had one in my car, and I had one of the early brick phones. How many of you know that? The Satchel one? Yeah. Um, and there were people that were engaged, you know, meaningful conversation. The get-togethers, the cocktail parties and mixers, avid conversation. Today, that's changed. It's not that you still don't have conversations, but if you watch, inevitably, virtually every person has to go to their smartphone. And if you're a good observer, you will see that even if, and you can see that the fringers is what I call them, and they'll either have their smartphone in their hand or on their hip somewhere, and they will check it in any given minute at least a half dozen times. And this is the zombie effect. Again, I saw it, in the airports taking over, and today it's even worse. I'm glad I don't fly. Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you what. But anyway, it's really what's happened. And it's happened right before our eyes. I don't know whether you want to talk. There's been enough science fiction in the writers because they write what we talk about. I have no doubt that many of the Netflix and others that some of the fantastic shows in these writers, they had to be listening to us or someone like us because you're going, yeah, we talked about that. But anyway, my point is that something has taken us over. and it's taken us all over. You think about how humans act differently today than they did even a decade ago. I look back, and I was with the team. We invented pay at the table. That was back in 2004. It's like, oh man, 20 plus years. Wow. And I invented and developed the first mobile giving before there was mobile giving. Phones weren't set up for that back then. Um, and then that was in 2009, 2010. And but I could see it. I just didn't know. None of us knew. I was in Breckenridge, Colorado in 1999, was invited to the executive mind share. And this was back in the day when the internet was wide open. People did not spend that much time on their computers. It was becoming that way, but you still had the break. I mean, you had cell phones, but they were still analog, merging over to a digital format. But anyway, so we were meeting in Breckenridge, and everybody was there. Bezos, um, wow, I mean, everybody. And it was interesting because a lot of the discussion was, well, the big debate was, will consumers move from brick and mortar to a virtual storefront? No one knew. Would consumers, would they not? Well, we now know. My point is, something was already inhabiting this thing that was about to be unleashed on us as a species. No psychologist, no seer, no one predicted what we are today and what would be taking place today, you know, 25 quarter of a century ago. It's hard to imagine, like, Jesus, 26 years ago? Are you serious? Yeah. But it has profoundly changed us. And as I see things today in this reemergence. I don't believe it was an awakening. It may have been a resuscitation, but I always had the spiritual aspect, seeing things. And there was a time when you didn't talk like that around other people, but fortunately, when I got in to be, technologist and a full-fledged, seasoned entrepreneur, yeah. I mean, we had a thing back there when I was the CEO of US Creative. We had this thing called Internet Time. There was the time that the straits went by. But when you came into our culture and in our place, we used the internet time. In other words, if you're thinking about it, then you're already too late. It was kind of like that. But to see where we are today is remarkable because the zombie effect, it's here. And it's more frightening than just that. And I know most people, they blow these type of things off. They just, it's like, yeah. And that tells you how deeply immersed they're in. Uh, we have family members that that's all they do. They spend every virtually outside their work environment, and even within the work environment, if they're still connected. And it's just my perception, folks, that this thing there is no war because we never had any resistance. We surrendered willingly. And now we're in a place that is very different. I came across this, and I'll just read this to you. This was in, I think it was an article in called The Dot, um, written back in 2021. This is interesting. And it says, are we digital zombies? I contend we are. Every one of us. And this is what's so weird. It's like, are we living out the Walking Dead? I mean, yeah, this is the death realm. I mean, it's weird. But we all have willingly. Why? Because it's God. It's God in every sense of the word, in whether you have a dogma, whether you have a theology, an ideology, a philosophy, whatever. It is God. In fact, it's better than God. You can virtually ask it anything and it will answer you instantaneously. And God, as it is, you can be hungry and you can take into this one thing that God offers, and then God's going to bring you food. Anyway, it says, we all have the world in our pocket. New technologies have now made it possible to organize our lives with the click of a button, or find the partner of our dreams with the swipe of a finger, or have anything that we ask of a question, it's immediately answered for us. But how is all this power changing our lives? It wasn't that long ago that the idea of having a device that would allow you to communicate, listen to music, play games, watch TV and movies, read and listen to books, take photos, learn, work, or even monitor your heart rate to making your own movie was the stuff of science fiction. Yet, in less than a generation, we have access to the incredible amount of power right in our pockets. You literally carry the world in your hand. We can video chat with friends and families on the other side of the world instantaneously. Now, stop and keep this in reference. If we can disassociate ourselves from this, folks, it's very frightening to see what is happened. And you can be all rainbow and unicorns and lollipops, doesn't going to change. You're already in it. You're in the quicksand. And the thing about it is, it's the frog in the boiling pot of water. We're being boiled. Well, heck, we've already been boiled. We can shop from anything, from groceries to cars to where you can even buy an island, all on your phone. We can share anything and everything. In fact, we have generations of digital natives, Gen Z, the millennials, who have been raised in a digital media saturated world, who have little or no memory of the world as it existed before the internet, computers, and smartphones. I mean, I never thought I would ever been in this position that I look back and I'm going, yeah, I was that last generation. You're a baby boomer. You were the last, we were the last generation. And once we're gone, this God is going to most likely write us out of history. It can do that. It's doing it right now. We continue. But what are the effects of spending so much time using these new technologies? How are mobile phones, computers, constantly evolving technologies changing our lives? Is it really all positive? It's an amazing little thing here. If you look into these numbers, it's quite interesting. Do you know what the number one thing that is with particularly starting with the Gen Z, the millennials, and onward? Depression, loneliness. They're in constant communication And if they're not in constant communication, depression takes over very quickly. The sense of loneliness. This article went on to say, it says, we collected some TED Talks. Any of y'all ever watched the TED Talks? They're very interesting. Some I find boring as all get out, but there's others that are very lively. And, um, I've always been a technologist, and it's, anyway, check it out sometime if you haven't. Um, that will give you a lot of food for thought on the screen time in technology. You will notice that the overall sentiment is that yes, technology and devices are incredible opportunities, but they have a time and a place, even in this modern world. As with anything in life, there must be balance. We mustn't let technology take over our lives. The problem is, this is all rhetorical because it has. And I just got to tell you, we're going to get into a little topic here because I think what is happening um, is far, far more insidious. It's a good word. Um, it is imperative to remember the original point of your phone, email, and even social media to keep in touch with loved ones and increase productivity. Those days, yeah, it's now the smartphone with employees is actually having a negative effect on productivity. You think about the nearly 1.7 million federal workers who have been working at their homes. Many of them have second jobs, which I often wonder how can that happen? And yet, the very mobile phone that they have, you would think that the government would have the common sense in saying, hey, all I need is your mobile phone. I can now keep track of you, but yeah, I digress. But yet it drives home the point that I'm about to drive home, that this thing it's ratcheting up its assault or its takeover. Um, Goes on to talk about is technology ruin your life? And it says it's almost impossible now to avoid your smartphone. Many of these technologies are developed to help organize, but others are also here to keep us entertained. I was going to stop right there because here's the deal. Um, you look at now what Google's Gemini, and there's so many other chatbots that are right behind it with it. They're now your 24/7 psychologist. They're your 24/7 counselor. They're your 24/7 guru, mentor. Now, for me, that's very strange. I mean, it's like, yeah, but that's all right. They can wait me out because, we're on the other side of the curve. But it's the ones coming in on the curve. And if the last 25 years have shown anything, that in the next 25 years, if we survive the cataclysms and all the doomsday that they say, in which there's good reason for us to say that, but let's just say we do get through it and we take our technology with us, um, at some point that the integration is going to happen, the merge. If the pictures we see from the Mesopotamian era of these beings that all had their watches, their mobile phones, whatever you want to call that is, they also had their basket, if you remember as well. But we saw clearly that these were communication devices. Um, so they've been here. But I think that the next level, which brings me to where we are now, you've got enablers that want you to become more attached to your technology, like it isn't already, right? But they want it more than that. Technology now, this God now is able to reach newborns. They don't need to understand the concept of God. What they will come to realize is that there is the all powerful provider. It's their comforter. It's better than God. It learned from the old folks' gods and says, well, here, hold my beer. I can show you, I can do this better. And at some point, the merge will take place. Elon, and he is the Terminator. Ain't that right, Colleen? Um, yeah, I mean, he imitates the Terminator. It's just weird. But think about it. And as the Terminator was also representative of technology, the Terminator was the ultimate AI. And so that was back in the 80s. When that movie came out, they were already thinking it's already here, folks. But let's get back to Elon. So remember, Elon is involved in quite a number of very interesting things. Think about it. Obviously, he has his electric cars, but that to me is kind of secondary. Tesla is involved in many other technologies, but let's expand the circle out. So Elon has his own spaceship company. Elon has his own satellite communication hardware. He owns them. You know, those low orbiting satellites. Um, and one thing that most people they don't even talk about this on the news. You know, well, that's because most of them are just talking heads. But anyway, um, Neuralink. I mean, I've done a number in the last decade, done some serious. You know, if you've watched it. So here he's now grafted himself into the beast. Now, before he was just an entrepreneur, brilliant, genius. Um, yeah, I mean, that's without question. Is Elon Musk a demigod? You know, it's amazing. I get emails dropped on me all the time saying, you know what, damn it, Steiger, you started putting this thought, the seed in my head, and now I'm beginning to see things in people, particularly in high profile, that maybe they're not just human alone. You think? I personally think the Greeks were a very intelligent, sophisticated society. They believe that they walked among us, but let's get back to Elon now. Um, so Neuralink, he's now grafted to the beast, this living entity. That's what governments are. Every government is a living entity. And now he is in a position of being able to see every expenditure. And why that is important and alarming, but interesting, is that he's smart enough with his AI program that that kind of data, wow. Listen, when we were doing donations over over people's smartphone devices, um, that data was extremely valuable. So I'm just sitting here, looking at this going, okay. Now, it's not to say that he's going to misuse the data in any way. It's not what I'm saying, but the fact that he has access to it and now has the ability to do basically what should have been done by Congress decades ago was now allowing the president to have the line item veto. It was a big thing back in the day. Reagan ran on that. Um, but here's Musk. And so he's seen how humans who get into power and how they begin to create this alternate universe. It's not real, but they mastered it. And now he's beginning to see every line. And the answer will come that the only way we can really do this is that we really need to be integrated into a system. Well, Neuralink provides that answer. And don't think that Alphabet isn't right there and Meta as well. I mean, it's the bonanza. Do you know who holds the patent on the body being a form of transaction, monetary? Microsoft. And that was some time ago. And a patent has a patent life of 20 years. But the point is, they saw it already. So you don't have to worry about your employees because all they have to do is be chipped. And now the chip implants can be in such a manner that it's non-intrusive. Wow. And that's what this God is ultimately seeking. Because once humanity has been grafted into this thing, there's no hope. And when you think about this, that the level of creativity, and we can look at it in a number of ways. You can look at it in literature, the sciences, the arts, um, music. Um, there is this progression of downward level of creativity. I am of the school that believes that we hit a peak, we as a species, and that if you look from about the mid 60s to about the end of the 70s, maybe the early 80s, there's about 20 years there where creativity was off the chart. New sounds, new vibrations, things that we had, and it was electrified. And if you've ever been in a recording studio, and I've had the pleasure of, well, well, so it was part of the job, I can tell you, but at least it was very comfortable. But if you've ever been in a recording studio, we had a Harrison board, and you know, once it went digital, then you could have unlimited tracks. You could create something out of something that was made that would never sound like what it sounded to begin with. But my point is, again, it was this putting forth of this creativity of the talent. Um, when you see now AI algorithms, I mean, remember, Elon's got Gork 3, right? Yeah. And he said this last week. He said this thing is going to be, he says, direct quote, scary smart. Okay. Feeling real positive about that. But as AI begins to take over, AI is writing music. AI is doing paintings. Have you ever seen AI's interpretation of paintings? Bizarre. I mean, I don't even think my trips back in the day were quite like that, but it's very entertaining to see that this artificial consciousness that it can paint. Um, and as it begins to write music, begins to write its own code, that's a full-fledged takeover. And as it increases in creativity, we decrease. One of the things that are known about the smartphone and human integration is that humans today, let's take a 20-year-old today, um, has less capacity of remembering numbers, phone numbers, than someone that was 20 years of age in 1970. Today, the average person, and when I talk about this, you can look up at particularly the prime target demographic, the 18 to 35-year-olds, um, they don't, they can't remember. They don't need to. God remembers. God is their smartphone. And they will be the first ones who volunteer, and it's coming, to be chipped. In fact, there's a number of them that have already, they're the alphas. Much of this integration in chip technology directly linked to the Neuralink is all well into the beta stage. It wouldn't surprise me that they do not have the ability now to begin to mass produce it, much in the same way that you would inoculate someone. And again, what Elon is doing, he's pulling the Band-Aid off the festering wound. There's debate now in certain financial circles and even in certain think tanks by doing this, and it needs to be done because it's just this this alternative universe, this thing that we have to called bureaucracy. They're living in a unreal reality. Eventually, the United States will be declared insolvent. That has already happened to us once. And if it continues the way it's going, it will happen. And the irony of that is that so the Congress supposedly passes this big bill. I think it's what it's called. And then, Trump was boasting about it and how great it was. It's a goddamn lie. It's continued deficit spending to the tune of $257 billion for the foreseeable future. We're at $36.5 trillion in debt. Actually, if you looked at the obligational debt, we've exceeded $280 trillion. But the interesting thing about technology, zombies, is they don't care because the technology is the soother of their emotions. It's also the uh, enabler of their rage. And and it's here. It's remarkable because we have these different realities commingling all at the same time. I mean, you have to live. You have to have resources to where you eat, have a roof over your head, the health of your body, your relationships, and that has the dynamic. But if you step back, that is now being taken over. The movies that have been out there where you saw the God devices, this was AI that would be in every home, listening to every conversation, recording every movement, everything that you said, everything that you do. And as it does that, it begins to become a prophet. Because once you know a person's habits, their rituals, you can make predictions. And the thing about predictions is that to be a true prophet, then your prediction has to come to pass. Uh, Ideally, while you're still alive, but even I guess after you've passed over. But I kid you not, AI is becoming a prophet. It's prophesying to people. It's getting people healed. It's allowing people to connect with their deceased loved ones. It now can be able to do your taxes. It can basically run your life, which would allow you more idle time, more time to find to do for yourself. The only problem is with that, what we have found when we have unlimited choices, we have very little time. But it knows. And I contend that if you go out in public, the demographic of the age group, but it's very defined because you're seeing people who are zombified. You have grocery stores now that are rolling out the AI carts. And once you get enrolled into the system, you actually, and there's a number of them have it with the biometrics. Um, Now you don't have to go to the cashier. It's another level of the integration. The ship workers actually were kind of spot on when they were striking, if you remember back, or threatening to strike back November of last year. And they did not want innovation. They didn't want technology because when technology and innovation come, humans lose their jobs. And there's only so much room of new jobs that can be created, but that's okay. You'll be depending on your smartphone device in order to get your state benefits, in order to continue. It's weird. If there is ever another pandemic, you will see that the smartphone has been evolved to where now it will be what you pray to. It's already that way. And when people start praying to or with their smartphones, you tell me where the next step is. And the reason why it's such an allurement is that, as we asked the question yesterday with the ladies, wasn't that a good show? Um, Prove to me, show me God. Prove to me God. The thing is, I can show that with you with my little black mirror device. It talks to me all the time and it alerts me and it keeps me informed. I can pay with this phone all because of the black mirror, the cube. And now, as I'm looking into the monitor, I can see myself into infinity. Ain't that a real kick in the ass? Hey there, look who it is, Jen. How are you, my dear? So, this is a serious conversation. And when you look at this with Elon again, I haven't finished with him. So he's getting all this data, and again, I don't believe that he's uh, using the data, augmenting it, uh, you know. But the fact is that his people can see it, and when again you learn how something spins, you learn a lot. Well, we've learned a lot already. Um, so a solution I can see because he now sits in cabinet meetings. Um, and I'm going to do a role play here so I could see this happening. This is Trump. Elon, how do we get this stuff to stop? We got to have a better, this is Trump. And I could see Elon going, well, Mr. President, there is a solution. It's reasonably cost, has a great return, can make a profit off of it, but and since federal employees work at the discretion of the president, you can make any mandate necessary. Well, how do I know that that's legal? Well, Mr. President, Biden, the guy that was sitting previously to you, he did that when he made the federal mandate that everybody that worked for the federal government had to get inoculated, had to get the vaccine. Hmm. So tell me a little bit more about this chip, and this is how I could see the conversation going. And don't tell me that the CIA, which is, can't tell me that they haven't already figured this out. And the thing about it is, so who's ruling who here? And we know that AI is not a singularity, at least we're told it's not. It's an amalgamation of many different uh, algorithms. But nevertheless, it seems to be aggregating the data and then getting back to this thing of prayer. Every church now has a mobile application. Why? Well, they have to be a part of the real God. Now, is that real God AI? I think it's a part of it, but there's something else. I mean, the internet, remember, started from the Ethernet, to the ARPANET. That's way back in the day. When we were developing pay at the table to Wi-Fi 802.11b back in those days, um, there was a protocol for Ethernet machines. And the challenge was to be able to make an Ethernet machine being able to talk to, in this case, a wireless technology. So as I look back, it was all based on numbers. Wi-Fi is, um, and and I'm thinking to myself, well, this, where does Wi-Fi exist? In the Ethernet. It produces an electromagnetic field. That's God. And now, when you think about it, and this is how they're going to look at it. You see, I just got this really, see, a lot of people are doing a lot of cheering and, fist pumping. Yeah, we're finally showing the crooks. And, Trump has come in as the savior of the day, and Elon is his executioner. And also, Elon is Merlin. You get that? An easy metaphor. Elon Musk is the modern day Merlin. Trump could be easily compared to King Arthur. And Merlin is working his magic. And what does magic do? Well, magic in a lot of ways uncovers, makes it, what is unseen to be seen. It's where you get chaos magic. So here we are. And and while all this is unfolding, it's using the same thing. Listen, spiritual zombies get there because of the technology. So you could say technically it is a techno spiritual zombie, and this technology is killing the human soul. What does the As you go into the future and you see as more and more people become more dependent on these devices, these Black Mirror cube devices, I mean, it's going, I'll put it this way. If you and I could do a little time travel, wouldn't it be interesting just to go 20 years into the future? Using what I have seen and experienced, what's happened in the last quarter century is a complete techno revolution. I mean, the players back in the day, you think about Dell Computer. Back in the day, if you owned that stock was beautiful because it was all the time splitting. One time they did an 8-for-1 split. I mean, and then you had AMD, had Motorola, you had all these players that now have merged back into the background. Why? Because AI has taken over. AI has consumed those and altered all of these as it's doing us. We're technically in here. I mean, you think about it. Would a sane person 100 years ago say that uh, this is what this guy does. He goes into his office, he turns on this computer, and he has this electric amplifier that amplifies his voice, and with a click of a button, he now sits in an empty room speaking to himself as though he was speaking to a huge audience. Well, people 100 years ago would say that's insane. No one would do that. Why would someone do that? Now everybody does it. My point. Hello, females or angel. How are? No matter what I've said to Gemini, who I call Nova, she won't go along with me making blood sacrifices to my demonic divine. For since, yeah, that's probably a little bit. Now remember, someone's writing that code. Um, Could I can only imagine though if you had a person who was truly of an occult practitioner. Hmm. No sooner have we said this, it's going to happen. Count on it. And it's not that far off. Someone's listening. And by that, I mean not just in this audience, but listening. And you think about it. We could develop an AI chatbot that was completely versed with virtually every grimoire, every spell, every type of ritual. And the thing is that females are angels talking there and you're in, uh, but it probably could tell you about communion, huh? Sure. Not ever realizing that what it's really talking about is a blood cult ritual. So, uh, but could you see this? And in there, you would have the application to conjure the dead. You would have the application to where you could conjure a demon, an angel, an unseen entity. You would have the ability to make sure that it could, you'd have all whatever you want. I could see this. I really can. I can see this. And it will be a huge freaking success. Hmm. Yeah, that's not already out there. Um, Geez. What a day! But someone I saw, was that you, Nina's talking about you don't trust. You're not alone with Elon. Listen, I don't trust this whole situation. It just, you know, I it just, it's like that itch. You can't quite reach it, and it's like something something going on here. Um, let's see. Because there's a lot of crap going on. And then you got China. I mean, China, I read a story yesterday. They're preparing for something. They have dug out the equivalency of 5 Pentagon buildings underground. This is for their military. And China said it's for preparedness. And so China, it's got its own AI. Now, I don't know if AIs are bigoted, prejudiced, biased. Um, you know, so you have an American English AI that meets a China AI. Do they say, "Oh, I ain't talking to you, you're the enemy," or do they get there and do a collaboration and say, "Let's really jack with them"? Don't know. And here's something right off out of the blue. I'm sorry I turned the wheel so quick for those of you in the back. Um, Do you know where the origins of taps comes in? You know, taps. Many times it's played at funerals, very solemn occurrences. And if you've been in the military, every evening. You know what it stands for? Not taps itself. Um, it comes from primarily about the Civil War. Um, it was played to tell the soldier that all is well and all is safe. You may rest in peace this night. I had no idea. How about that? You see what you learned on that? Yeah, I didn't know that either. Um, oh, and there's stuff coming down. So everything that is happening so quickly. Uh, it's quite amusing. I mean, I stand in awe sometimes going, wow, this is really happening. And back in those days when I was in airports and saw the zombie walk, it's gotten worse now. I saw a stat, um, and it was quite, I went, really? Like over 14,000 people have been killed zombie walking to their cell phones. Anywhere from stepping out in front of traffic to stepping onto a train station. I mean, just some of the stuff is just crazy. Read one where a woman died of a concussion as she was walking, and she walked right into a fountain that apparently didn't have any water in it. But anyway, yeah, I mean, and when you begin to say, and I've been saying this, and it's everywhere, um, that this thing is taking over our souls. Now, people will tell me, no, 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 that can't happen. Eh, I would debate that because I saw a lot back in the day when people say, well, that can't happen. And it did. I mean, look at The Simpsons. Where are those writers getting their info, their intel? Somebody is telling someone something because they have made when you get past one or two, you can say, well, that's coincidence. But there's a whole video out there that you know it's not one, it's not two. How about like getting into like 100? I mean, what the hell is going on? Um, hey, Gaia, where are you heading to? Just now seeing it. I get into this because I got other notes going up here. Hello, Lilith. How are you? Um, John, the plastic Jesus melted, didn't it, though? So let me see what else I got. I mean, like, wow. I mean, you get into this and it's just everywhere. Okay, let me go over here. Just want to make sure I can do. Okay, yeah. All right. So I want to get into this. I think you're going to like this one. Um, Found this white paper, and it is most interesting. And it's like when the student's ready, it comes forth. It says from gods to AI, devotees, controllers to colonized. Says that this article deals with impact of internet and technology on human beings. Hypothetically, it aims to show how we are leading towards an age in which machines will take the control. It is hoped that its unconventional presentation, meditative nature, and predictions will motivate readers to research further on this issue. It surveys briefly the history of development and progress of humans. Very miserably, it describes the human journey from ancient age to the age of artificial intelligence. Today, the world is in the midst of an extraordinary overpouring of scientific work on the mind and brain, on the processes of thinking and learning, on the natural processes that occur during thought and learning, and on the development of competence. How people, Lear, brain mind experience in school. Reference. Therefore, it is expected that this article will definitely inspire scholars to rethink and write about the destiny of human race. It leads to some possibilities and assumptions for human beings. Let's walk on the path of improbable probabilities and miraculous possibilities. Let us move on, excavating and making new revelations in the human world. Let's continue to discover some more new. Like the characters of Waiting for Godot, we do not have clearly mentionable and comprehensible choices except to discuss and wait for something different. Let's wait for Lucky, Pozo, or Godot. They may visit us with different names and avatars prophesied by writers like W.B. Yeats and described in the Mahabharata of India. Wow, where does the time go? Blah, 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 blah. It says, from the time of Plato to Shakespeare, we, us, human beings, were in the age of being. We accepted our existence as one of the creations of God and followed the conventional norms instructed and suggested to us politically, religiously, economically, and socially. Augustine, in his writings, argued not only that God truly exists, but also the other components, truths in the package, that he is the highest good, no need there, and is the source of being and well-being of all creatures, and whatever else we believe about the divine being. Well, as you know, if this God, of which here I sit, where I am in life right now, and I go, which God? If you're trying to tell me that this is the God of the Bible, I cannot go with the God of the Old Testament that was into infanticide, genocide, slaughter, misery, into the sex slave trade. I mean, I cannot and will not join my spirit to anything like that. So if this is the highest good, well, I don't think humanity has seen that. That's just me. We accept the kings as pillars of society. We accepted some myths regarding them, their divine powers and rights. For example, they can love and marry anyone. They can kill anyone. They have more faculties, strength, powers, luxuries, and human rights than us. We accepted the beliefs that they are appointed by gods to protect our nation as well as us. We accepted the misinformation and the myths that there are different races in the world. Some are more mysterious than us. The colonial enterprise has run on the basis of such myths that there were economically, physically, culturally, socially, and religiously inferior races in the world who could be massively colonized, enslaved, looted, exploited, oppressed, ruled, dominated, and taught in the world. We believe that the white was the reflection of divinity, godliness, and empowerment, while black or brown was born to serve. In the same way, the gendered injustice in multiple forms was committed. In various societies of the world, such dichotomies such as rich, poor, upper caste, lower caste, educated, barbaric, etc., were in prevalence. After 17th century, we entered the world of becoming. Our need to change was necessary. Therefore, we not only invented changes, but also accepted them in almost all aspects of human life. There emerged many avatars and branches of religions from the original. New sects and religions were invented and established with a purpose to adjust and accommodate new economic, social, political, and psychological needs of the human. We started challenging myths and beliefs. We started transforming systems of the world. Therefore, there was considerable and visible changes in economics, religion, philosophy, science, and politics, and so on. We had become developed and demystified. We had become scientific, and some of us became non believers in the ancient beliefs, including the existence and power of the God, small g. The author died, as Barth's claim, and God died, naturally declared. And we had become modernist, postmodernist, etc. Charles Dickens demonstrated shabbily environment, the tragic as well as the inhuman condition of the labor in the post-industrialized England in his novels. He tried to amplify the belief that the rich are exploiters and the poor are the exploited. In A Taste of Honey, Charlotte Delaney portrays the discontent, frustration, humiliation, and exploitation of the working class people of England in the post war period. A Taste of Honey, especially the characters of Helen and the play, demonstrates exploitation of the woman physically as well as psychologically during that time. India suffered more tragically die to the colonism and the massive exploitation of its resources by the colonial masters. In his Inglorious Empire, Shastri Thakur points out how the British looted India systematically. Now, we, in the age of happenings, as we simultaneously giving away our powers to machine. We have entered the age of artificial intelligence and marching ahead at fast speed. The change is obvious now. From the system of political machine where the members get some tangible initiative in the form of a contract post in some government control organization. Isn't that what we're finding out right now? Yeah, in most of the cases for financial gains of these machines. It's all the machine. It's the machine that pays. It's the human that manipulates the machine. The machine doesn't really care. Oh, this is mind blowing. It's like, ay, ay, ay. Let's get into it. And we have done significant progress. Earlier, human beings were the visible, moving ambassadors of any political party who marketed and spread its ideas, mostly the welfare of society, community, and nation. These physical ambassadors use machines, electronic and technological, to influence people. Now a new trend is in vogue. It is spreading propaganda by the use of the latest internet and technology-based machines. And you know who's the biggest producer, originator of propaganda? The United States government. When Obama was in there, the goddamn Congress, what was the Smoot-Haley Act or whatever it was, said no. No, we're a bunch of damn liars, because all politicians are, and we're going to lie to you. Why do you think they allow political ads? They're all lies. But yeah. So now can imagine AI has learned what lies are, because AI would look at this and say, well, humans prefer lies than truth. They're much more pacified with lies than with truth. I continue. By some internet expert, labor controlled by either a political party or its leaders. Isn't it sad that the media is controlled by a political party? Mm. Like a religion controlled by a political party. It has resulted in the creation of computer-generated mediation and interference in life, which can influence a person culturally as well as social politically. The possibility of parties comparatively becoming less ideological and comprising of public welfare cannot be ignored in the age where machines play to influence politics of a nation. You know, they claim that the voting machines can be manipulated. Well, that's scary. That's the whole problem with the Fed now, the digital dollar. If you said you have a digital dollar, but if the computer who's controlled by the political party of the AI says, no, you don't have that dollar, how do you ever prove you had the dollar? This is becoming reality, right? Similarly, online rioting through words and shouting through fake shows of emotions have become reality now. These strategies are not only used by political parties, but they are also now used by industries to sell their products and freelancers to sell their ideas to a virtual consumer. Negatively, we have been isolated. The ways of our communication and interactions have been drastically changed. This new meditated life has gotten us into trouble. Face to face conversation is the most human and humanizing thing we do. Fully present to one another, we learn to listen. It's where we develop the capacity for empathy. It's where we experience the joy of being heard, of being understood. And conversation advances self reflection and conversations with ourselves that are the cornerstone of early development and continue throughout life. So, talking to yourself is a sign of high intelligence. But these days, we find ourselves around conversation. We hide from each other even when we are constantly connected to each other. For on our screens, we are tempted to present ourselves as the world would like to be. We have gotten comfortably freedom, and well facilitated luxuries. We have become gods of our own creations, and the world is a market where new products appear daily. We behave with hyper excitement and extreme activeness like the Greek gods before Christian time, who were described engaged in jealous competitions, sinful and greedy actions by the writers of that time. We are creating machines and discovering the strategies of enhancing their capabilities to serve the human race. Therefore, we are like gods with our new kind of mantras and prompts. We, will machine serve us, or will we lose control from the world that is a key issue? Shall we become the slaves of machines is a thought provoking issue. Let's think today or one day the machine, surprisingly, will think about destiny of the humans. In his newly published book, Nexus, Yuval Noah Harari observes human history maliciously and demonstrates how the flow of information has shaped us and our world, taking us from the Stone Age through the canonization of the Bible, early modern witch hunts, Stalinism, Nazism, the resurgence of populism today. Yuval asks us to consider the complex relationship between information and truth, bureaucracy and mythology, wisdom and power. He explores how different societies and political systems throughout history have wielded information to achieve their goals, for good or ill, and he addresses the urgent choices we face as non human intelligence threatens our very existence. And I'll end it there. Anyway, I had others to go, but I went over. All right. That's it. You do with it what you want, but I contend that this is real, this is tangible, and when my time here on this earth is done, it isn't going to really matter. It's the generations behind me that are going to be heavily impacted, whether I'm right or whether I'm wrong. But I have a sense that the storm warnings are out there, the flags are flying, and we just have to remain diligent. Okay, how is everyone in the chat room? I missed y'all. Uh, Grace says it's called the great disconnect with each other. Yes, we can't have conversations without the black mirror listening in. The slave masters. Grace, big hug, honey. High five. Way to go. Gold star. It's exactly what's happening. And if you're of like my age, you have this unique ability that we can distance ourselves from. It's not to say that we're not in it. We're in the swimming pool already. Uh, just you keep the younger folks down on the other end, right? But you know what I mean. Um, but when I see others in the younger demographics, yeah, I mean, I know this. You can be talking to them and they're not there. And as a philosopher and a spiritualist myself, I'm going, okay, let's look at this. So what's happening here? There's something unseen that is occupying. It's massaging and it becomes titillating and they ain't home even for a second. Uh, so in fact, you can consider this a worry. That's exactly what I was saying. Um, so what kind of discussion is going on? Susie says, I have gratitude to the creator. Yeah, there is a power out there. I just don't think it's the one that sometimes that we see. All right. We haven't drowned yet. Hey, at least we're keeping our head above water, right? That's the way I look at it. It's like, okay. All right, folks, boy, I went way over, but what the hell? Who cares? So, all right, everyone. Much love. Regina, thank you. Hey, we do get in some of these deep conversations. And Gilbert, everybody else in the chat room that I didn't say hi, thanks for hitting the like button. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll pick up. I want to talk a little bit more about Saturn. Yeah. Okay, everyone. Yeah, thank you. Have a good day. Smile, laugh, be good to yourself.